Alright guys, welcome back to the show, and yeah, we're going to be doing some Patreon requests today, starting off with a request from my good friend Jason Voorhees 2011. Jason, thank you once again. And as always, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can send me requests for videos to do here on YouTube. But other than that, let's get started with this video. Yeah, so let's get started. So, Jason asked me for a request, in honor of, the news that we had for the Transformers and G.I. Joe Energon-verse, as it's being called, basically getting all these new titles that are building the new era of these comics. Specifically, Joshua Williamson doing a Duke and Cobra Commander comic, respectively. So he asked me, what G.I. Joe characters would I like to see get comics in this new era? Yeah, so which of the Joes or Cobra characters should get their own comics? So yeah, so we're gonna. But as always, before we go any further, as always, if you guys like to have a Patreon request done, just hit the link below. Head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can start sending me requests for videos to do here on YouTube once you hit the 4th tier. Other than that, let's get started with the video. So let's get started with the first and obvious one, Snake Eyes. I think it is that it should be Snake Eyes, and Snake Eyes has proven that that this character can hold his own as a recurring character and as a character that can hold their own ongoing. Snake Eyes did have several miniseries and solo series in the IDW era. Alongside the Larry Hama comics, there was also several other comics that also heavily had Snake Eyes as the main focus throughout the comic. So, yeah, I think it would be stupid not to have a new Snake Eyes book in the series. I think that would be a very stupid idea not to have Snake Eyes in this new comic series. I think that would be a very bad idea. As for another character, we're going to go through Joe's first. I'll get to Cobra characters in a moment. I'm not going to talk about who would be writing them. If you guys want to do that, that's fine in the comments. But yeah, Snake Eyes, I think that's kind of the obvious one. Moving on to another character I think that deserves their own series, it's Scarlet. Scarlet could totally hold her own comic. Scarlet has been the linchpin of the G.I. Joes in the past. She's been almost like a Nick Fury level character at some points. Scarlet is is one of the fan favorites and definitely could hold her own as a character that can hold their own G.I. Joe solo title. And anyone who says she can't, fuck you. I thoroughly believe Scarlet is a capable enough character, and it's been proven in comics in Marvel and IDW, as well as in the several cartoons. Scarlet could do some cool deep cover books in these cool espionage comics throughout this series. So 100% totally Scarlet for this title, for her own title. Moving right along, Flint. Flint is another one of the G.I. Joe's field commanders, someone who Duke deeply trusts, and someone that could totally hold their own. Flint is another character, I think it would be a lot like the Duke comic, where it would be these high-octane kind of action comics in a way. I do feel like Flint... I would actually love to see Chuck Dixon come back and write Flint, because he always there was always a lot of Flint in his comics. So I would absolutely love to see Chuck Dixon, who has written a lot of G.I. Joe for both Marvel and IDW, come back and write this character. I think he would absolutely be perfect to come back and write Flint for this new Image era of G.I. Joe. Next up, while I don't know if he could hold a series, maybe a mini-series, and that is Gung Ho. Gung Ho's always been, and this is more of Gung Ho's one of my favorite Joes. He's always just this big, I'm gonna punch it kind of person. I kind of imagine Gung Ho in the sense that it's like Ben Grimm, where Ben Grimm, while he could probably hold his own title, and he has in the past, Gung Ho could totally carry a miniseries, or several miniseries, of him just doing a lot of demolition shit. I feel like that would be really cool. I think Gung Ho, maybe not could hold a ongoing, but a miniseries. So yeah, let's move on now to our Cobra characters. And first and foremost, yes, if Snake Eyes can hold a ongoing, then Storm Shadow could hold an ongoing. I think in this new era, it would be really cool to see, like, the rise of the Arashikage, and maybe that's how you could do, if, like, just throwing this out here, maybe that's how you can do, how I'm kind of theorizing the Duke and Cobra Commander books by Joshua Williamson, is that we're seeing the rise of both Cobra and G.I. Joe through respective eyes of the two leaders. That's how I kind of see it. I can't say for sure, but that's where I think they're going. Now, as for how you could do Storm Shadow and, by and large, the Snake Eyes comic in this era is the rise and fall of the Arashikage. This is how you could focus on how Snake Eyes split from them, but also several other members split from them. It's always kind of left in the air, like in some iterations where the Arashikage split and some joined with Cobra after Storm Shadow became leader and others left along with Snake Eyes while he wasn't leader. He was more like, they were like, hey, we just don't want to follow Storm Shadow. So yeah, I do think that a Storm Shadow book would be cool and really focus on the Arashi and be very Arashikage heavy. Maybe this is how you can do you can bring in Jinx into this era as well. I think that'd be really cool. Next up, Baroness. Baroness 100% can hold her own comic. I 100% believe that Baroness could hold her own comic. She's much like it's Scarlet. Like, it's deep espionage, spy stuff. Like, this would be a comic that I would actually love to see Kelly Thompson write Baroness. I like her run for Black Widow. I've read some of, not all of, her Black Widow comics, but holy shit, were they really good. Now imagine like an evil version of Black Widow. That's your Baroness comic by Kelly Thompson. I would absolutely love to see Kelly, like, that's my writer who I would pick for her. Or, well, no, Kelly Thompson's topping the list. But yeah, I think she'd be really cool. Again, Baroness, I think she's a great enough character to carry her own. Next up is Zartan. Zartan would be like a fun, just following some bloody books. Like, this would just be some straight up bloody, violent comics and some dark espionage shit. And remember, Zartan is always for the highest bidder, so who knows? Maybe we could get some cool, like, some Suicide Squad stuff, level stuff in here. Not saying he's part of the Suicide Squad. I'm saying, like, kind of that Black Ops, wheel and deal kind of comics. That's what I'm trying. That'd be more like Secret Six. Anyway, I'm rambling. As for others, I will say that if they bring him back, I would love to see this character brought back for this era, and that's Crake. Crake, if you don't know, Crake was a big character in IDW. In fact, he became Cobra Commander after the original one had been murdered, and after the event of Cobra Civil War. Crake is like Deathstroke if you gave him Red Skull's brain. That's the best. He's this terrifying monster of a human being, and I think he would be really cool at an ongoing. Anyway, so there you go, guys. You guys tell me in the comments below, what G.I. Joe and Cobra characters could you see holding comics in this new era? Anyway, but I'd like to thank once again my friend Jason Voorhees 2011 for his continued patronage. Other than that, like I said, if you guys would like to have a Patreon request of your own, just hit the link below, head on over to my Patreon, where you guys can hit the 4th tier and start sending me your requests. Other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.